Hey guys, it's me Zain, and today we are gonna talk about how and when to water your succulents. I decided to remake this video because I have a lot more stuff in my mind to share with you, but the main idea is to give your succulent a good amount of water with every watering and let the soil dry out completely before you water it again. Okay, so before I start my more detailed explanation, I'd like to ask you a favor. I'm one of the choreographers of our dance group called MT Family, and our goal is to show our passion for dance on stage on one of the biggest dance competitions. Last year we made it there and had a lot of success. But this year we lack of financial support, and that's the reason I'm asking you to donate, and as little as €1 helps. You can make your donations by clicking on the info card, or you can find a link down in the description box below with all the info you need. Thank you so much. Now let's get back to the topic of watering succulents. First you have to think of where succulents live. Most of the succulents live on areas with longer dry periods, and they needed to adapt to this environment and to these weather conditions which these desert-like areas provide. Through their evolution they developed some qualities which can help them not only just survive but actually thrive under these conditions. That's the actual reason succulents look very different from our garden plants. They developed organs that can hold large amounts of water at a time, which can be used when there is no water for like weeks and weeks, you know. So these storage organs can be the leaves, the stems, and also the roots, and that's why these succulents can be called leaf succulents, stem succulents, and root succulents. But there are some cases when the plant can be stem and leaf succulent at the same time, like for example the jade plant, which I have here. For example, in this case, this plant is a leaf succulent because it has really plump leaves, and also the stems of this plant is really thick, so it means that water is stored not only in the leaves but in the stems as well. But the roots are very thin, so the roots don't hold this large amounts of water. They only pick up the water and they give it to the leaves and the stem. Now, what this succulence actually means, it means that the given portion of the succulent is very plump and it can store large amounts of water and nutrients for the plants. Now, a lot of people, mostly succulent beginners, think that since this plant is used to dry periods and hot weather, they will need only a sip of water at every watering regularly, but that's a completely wrong idea. You have to think of the desert weather. Desert rains are often just light and brief, and after the sun comes out it dries up the water very fast. So the succulents actually develop root systems which are very shallow and very wide, and they are just below the surface, so they can pick up large quantities of water when the rain comes. You have to mimic this environment at home in your pots. How to do that? Well, not with only a few droplets of water. That's a wrong idea. I don't know who came up with that. Give your succulents a good drink at every watering and let the soil dry out completely before you want to water it again. And not only the surface has to be dry, the bottom part of the soil inside the pot has to be dry as well. If you overwater your succulents and the roots will experience constant moisture, they will actually rot, and this rotting can spread into the plant, so the plant will rot as well, or the roots won't be able to hydrate the plant itself, and either way the plant can die from that, so don't do that. And actually, if you are an indoor succulent grower, you can check out the info card because there is my other video about some tips about growing succulents indoors. Okay, now let's talk about how to water your succulents properly, and I will show you 3 different types of watering. Here I have 3 plants on this little tray because I don't want to mess up my floor. This one is Echeveria agaboides, but the redder variety, not the normal green variety. Can I show you that? Is this an autofocus? Okay, so this one is the Echeveria agaboides. This is a redder variety, not the lipstick, because the lipstick has this red pigmentation only on the edges of the leaves. This one has a red hue to the whole extent of the leaf. Okay, so the second plant is this one here. How can I show you this? This is the second plant. These huge leaves. This is the Sansevieria cylindrica, and the leaves are high up in the sky because it likes to grow leaves like this, and I will show you the longest leaf, the end of it. This is it. This is the long leaf. This is the last plant which I will show you today. This is the Echeveria pulvinata Doris Taylor, which has these hairs on the leaves, and I think it's really cute. So these are the plants I'm gonna work with today. Okay, the first method is when your succulents are potted in a clay pot or plastic pot or whatever, and you don't have an actual tray for your plant, only the pot. In this case, and I will try to not make a mess here on the floor, but in this case what I like to do is to pour water on the soil, and it will go on the tray as well, but I like to pour water here and wait until it drips out at the bottom. Now water will be everywhere because I'm not outside and I'm used to water them outside, but I like to water and wait until it drips out at the bottom. After everything dripped out at the bottom, I like to water them 1 or 2 more times again, just to make sure that the whole soil in the pot is saturated completely with water. So after I watered it like this, I will give it more water 1 or 2 times. And after this one's ready to go and it's watered. Okay, the second method is the case of this one, which is potted in a normal pot, but actually has this little tray. In this case, I like to fill up the tray with water as much as I can. And now I will leave this one like this, and I will let the soil absorb the moisture from the tray. Actually, the soil will absorb all of the water you put there, and if there is no water left in the tray after this, you have to water it again, fill the tray up again, and wait until it's absorbed again. After 2 or 3 fillings up of this tray, actually the soil won't be able to absorb more moisture, and that will mean that the soil is saturated completely with water, and that's what you are looking for. So after it, if there is any water left in the tray and the soil won't absorb that, you have to take the succulent out of the tray, dip the excess water from the pot, and you can put the pot back into the tray. The only thing you have to look for is to make sure that there is no water left in the tray after you made this. Actually, watering succulents is not that messy, I just dunked the water out on this tray because I was lazy to dunk it out in the sink. Okay, so the third method you can do is when you have your succulent in a pot, which is in another pot, which is a decorative pot. In this case, what I like to do is I like to fill up this whole thing with water until it is filled completely, and I hope I can see that. Okay, and this one glass wasn't enough. Okay, I can be more precise with the watering can, but I couldn't find it. Okay, right now this whole thing is filled up with water. What I do after this, you can already see that the soil is absorbing the water and the water level is going down. So I leave this plant like this for like 10 or 15 minutes, and after 10 minutes I just dunk out the excess water which is left in the decorative pot. But this dunking out of the water and things like that is very important for the plant, because you have to make sure that the roots are not sitting in water. So these are the 2 things that are important with succulents. You have to give them a good drink, but also you have to make sure that the roots are not sitting in water, because in that case the roots can rot and that's not good. If you forget to dip out the water from this decorative pot for like a whole day because you were watering and then, I don't know, something happened and you forgot about that, 1 day is perfectly fine with these succulents, because 1 day won't harm the roots, it won't do any harm to the plant itself, it can go with it, it can survive it. There were cases when I was like keeping them in water for like 3 or 4 days and there was no harm done for them, so they can survive it, but you know, don't risk it. You can go for 1 day, but you have to dunk the water out. Don't let those roots sit in water, because that's not good. Now this method will actually ensure a good vegetative growth for your succulents, and roots will be grown after every watering. Some succulents even grow micro roots on the roots, like tiny hairs or something like that, after you water them. But these micro roots will actually die after the soil has dried out, but don't freak out, that's normal for them. That's what they're supposed to do. On the other hand, for the flowering and not only for the vegetative growth, succulents will need a seasonal change in their environment, and one of the, let's call it, type of seasonal changes affects the watering as well. But before that, let's talk about how often you should water your succulents. Like I said, always wait until the soil dries out completely before the next watering, or you can go even for like 3 or 4 more days after the soil has dried out completely, in some cases for even more, and after it you can water it again. Honestly, I cannot give you the exact time how often you should water your succulents, because the time the soil will be completely dry will be different in different environments. So the drying period will depend on a lot of things, and I wrote them down, and I cannot keep so many things in my mind, so I'll revert to them. So it will depend on the environment, of your weather, the weather conditions, the pot itself, the size of the pot, the size of the plant, the health of the root system, and the soil of the plant. And if you are curious what is the good soil for the succulents and what is the bad soil for the succulents, check out the info card up above me, and you will see the video where I talk about the soil, the good soils and the bad soils for the succulents. The main idea is it has to be really good draining. But the watering frequency actually can vary from a few days up to a month. It really just depends. I can suggest you to actually experiment your watering, but always keep in mind, let the soil dry out completely before the next watering. And if you are living in the tropics where the air is really humid and the evaporation process is really slow, check the info card out. Remember the seasonal changes of your environment, and remember the seasonal changes some succulents need for flowering, or actually for living in some cases. A lot of succulents, like for example echeverias, experience winter rest. What winter rest actually means? That means that I keep them in a slightly darker and cooler place for the winter, but I keep them above 5 degrees Celsius. Actually, that's the average minimal temperatures for a lot of succulents. There are some which cannot survive that, but you have to research that. In the winter, when they experience this winter rest, the water should be reduced drastically. Also, you have to take into consideration the very slow evaporative processes because of the cold and the humid weather in winter. Usually succulents grow a lot in spring, summer and fall, and they experience this winter rest in winter. But actually there are some succulents which have a dormancy period in the summer. After all, the main growing season is spring, and the more your succulents grow, the more water you have to give them. But you have to think about the temperature and the light conditions of the plant. And if you are curious about how to care for your succulents properly, like light-wise and temperature-wise and like fertilizer and things like that, check out the info card. I will put their video in which I talk about the proper care for succulents. Don't forget that some succulents like lithops are dormant in the summer, which means that in the hottest days of this season they don't need any water because they are in the dormancy. So there is not an overall care when watering for succulents. The best you can do is to research at first, ID your plant, and after it research a lot, and you will find out how to properly water your succulents and care for it. So I hope you like this video remake. I decided to do this because I really thought that my older video is not as useful as some people thought. But okay, I hope you like this video, and don't forget to share this video with your friends if they have succulents, because you know this video can be useful for them. Also, don't forget to like this video, don't forget to comment if you have any questions about this topic. I will answer them if I can, but most probably I can. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and you will see other useful videos about succulents and orchids and sometimes other plants as well. Also, you can subscribe to my other channel, and you can follow me on Instagram, and you will find all the useful links down in the description box below. And again, please remember to help my dance group, and please help us to live our dreams. So thank you for watching, see you next time, bye guys! It started to snow outside, it's so cold, but I have to collect snow for my orchids. This script is very long. This is the first script I've ever made. I'm so professional, you know. First things first, I'm a realist. First, you have to think of swears, or you can find a link, or you can find a link, or you can find a link down in the description, or you can find a link down in the description. Hogy lehet ez ilyen nehéz?